Woman crying in the subway has heartbreaking story that forces workers to act. Dr. Margaret McCollum, like anyone who lost their significant other, struggled to cope with the sudden loneliness of her late husband left deep in her heart. However, she managed to find a unique sense of comfort, until it was suddenly stripped away without warning. She feared the comfort she found was permanently gone, but she'd do anything to get it back. Even Queen Elizabeth II took the tube once. Anyone spending time in London has minded the gap and stepped aboard the city's subway system, though it held a special place in the heart of Dr. Margaret McCollum. Used by millions of commuters every day, the London Underground was the preferred method for travel for Margaret, below. She took the transport system from her home in North London to her offices, and every time she felt something other commuters didn't. See, while she did take the tube to cut down on transportation costs and eliminate driving in the heavy trafficked city, she had a personal reason for braving the crowds and grime. Every time a train pulled up, she was reminded of love. That's because her late husband, an actor named Oswald Lawrence, spoke to her every time one of the shuttles pulled into the station. How exactly? Well, it all had to do with the station's Mind the Gap. The booming voice cautioned riders to watch their step as they walked on and off the subway car was actually Oswald himself. Years before he passed away, he landed a contract with the London Underground, and Margaret heard him almost every day. Although Oswald never attained a huge amount of fame for his acting work, after he passed away in 2007, his voice lived on throughout the northbound Northern Line and the London Underground. This helped Margaret cope. Naturally, Margaret was crushed when she had lost her partner. It was devastating to lose him. He had a great zest for life, she said of Oswald, but she knew how lucky she was to have that special subway connection. Even before he died, she would wait an extra few minutes at the station to hear his voice. The two were in love, and she took any opportunity she could to hear him speak. Over time, however, Oswald's voice became less prevalent. Slowly, the man Margaret fell in love with on a tour of Morocco in 1992 fizzled out of her life, as well as the lives of thousands of commuters. Eventually, the only station that carried his particular warning and voice was Embankment. Margaret knew she was blessed to hear Oswald speak, even if it was just those 3 words. Most people never get the opportunity to hear their loved ones again, so Margaret traveled via Embankment as often as possible. Even though it was out of the way, it was worth it. Because for those brief few seconds Oswald spoke, nostalgia washed over her, and she was truly happy, if only for a moment. She admitted, "Since he died, I would sit and wait for the next train until I heard his voice." But the joy wouldn't last. One chilly November morning, however, Margaret was greeted with something completely different as she was waiting for a subway at Embankment. Silence. Surely something was wrong with the loudspeaker, so she waited a little longer. He wasn't there. Nothing happened. She waited for several subways to pass, but still, Oswald's voice never kicked in. Margaret felt a void open in her heart. He wasn't there. I was just stunned when Oswald wasn't there anymore. She found one of the London Underground employees and inquired about the lack of audible warning regarding the gaps. "I was told there was a new digital system, and they could not get his voice on it," she said. This was bad news. A devastated Margaret sat and stared off into the distance, unable to cope with the fact that Oswald was now truly gone. Little did she know, though, the worker she had told the story to wanted to help the grieving woman. Nigel Holness, London Underground's director, took charge of the situation. Transport for London were approached by the widow of Oswald Lawrence, he said, to see whether she could get a copy of the iconic Mind the Gap announcement her husband made over 40 years ago. "We were very touched by her story," Nigel continued. So staff tracked down the recording and not only were able to get a copy of the announcement on CD for her to keep, but are also working to restore the announcement at Embankment Station. In an amazing act of kindness, the workers were able to supply Margaret with exactly what she sought out every day: Oswald's voice. Now, the doctor had a constant connection to the man she loved more than anything. Although it was just Oswald's voice, the CD will always hold a special place in Margaret's heart. The grieving experience became more intimate, more personal. She could listen to Oswald in the comfort of her own home. She knew the possible pitfalls of that. Margaret had heard stories of people grieving and healing before, having the Band-Aid ripped off and the wound reopened.